Malō and welcome back to Vaine Kitchen Podcast, also known as VMK. My name is Nani and I'm your host. Today we are filming our 6th episode. I am actually here in Tonga, Nuku'alofa, and we are actually in CUP, which stands for
Christ University in Pacific.
We're actually in your dad's office.
This is my dad's office.
And he doesn't even know. So thank you, Maloni, for letting us use your beautiful office. Hengi is actually a faculty member with Laveng Amalia Christian College, and she's been teaching for 14 years, over 14 years. Going into her 14th year, yeah. Over a decade for sure, and has been assisting with educating Tongan students here in Tonga. We're in Nuku'alofa, right?
This is Nuku'alofa. This is the capital city of Tonga.
Capital city of Tonga. And Hengi, how many students have you taught over the past decade?
All right. Probably close to 1,000, maybe 1,000, maybe more. I really can't keep count.
Wow.
But I think rough estimation would be around that number.
Wow, okay. We have a special episode today. We're actually going to be talking about Christian education. But I think it's wonderful because Hengi is not only teaching here in Tonga, she's also teaching for Lavenga Malia Christian College, which is actually the church school for Tokaikolo Christian Church. So who better than to have someone who's actually in the line of work? So we're going to jump right into our questions. So Hengi, could you please introduce yourself, your parents, and tell us where you come from?
Thank you. My name, like Nani said, is Hengi, and that's the name that I'm known by most of my Tongan family and friends, and even here in Tonga. So it's Hengi Veni. Currently married to Hamoni Veni. My parents are Maloni Kafa, who's currently, this is his office, he's teaching at CUP.
Thank you.
And mom is Lata Kafa. She passed away in 2018. I live, currently residing here in Tonga. I am the second oldest of 5 children.
Wow.
So, but yeah, that's my family background. My dad, is from Talafo'o, and my mom's other town is Nutoa,
So tell us, which church were you raised in? Have you always been a part of Tokaikolo Church? Like born and raised?
Born and raised yeah. Tokaikolo. So I was born in 85. Parents were already in the church. They were living in Lavenga, and my parents were teaching, so mom and dad was a teacher, I think, in the site school or the elementary school,
Wow.
And mom was also teaching as well, so born and raised, grew up here in Tonga, went to the elementary school in Lavenga Malia. I was about grade 3 before I ended up moving with my family over to Australia.
Okay.
And so I finished off my education in Australia before coming back here to Tonga.
How many years, Australia?
I was there for about 12 years.
Oh, good
12
amount of
years,
time.
yeah. Finished off my year 12 there, and then parents got called back to Tonga, so we moved back.
Wow, okay. And then you've been here now for how many years now?
Since 2004. So 2004, and so I came back with my parents, my family, for the university, because the university was starting in 2004, and dad was one of the faculty members. He was the Bible department, and so 2004, 2006. 2006, eventually came to America.
Yeah.
Came back in 2010.
I met you, in 2007.
Continued from there, yes.
So Hengi and I, we actually met in Pensacola Christian College. So shout out to PCC and all the alumni that are out there. There were how many of us Tongans back then?
There was a lot, actually.
Yeah, like 30 something, probably almost 40 of us. So that's how I met Hengi. So we are also PCC alumni. So every time I come to Tonga, it's great. I always look for her. So that's wonderful, Hengi. So let's move on to our next question. What is your current occupation, and why have you chosen that line of work?
Currently, I'm a teacher. I'm also one of the heads in the school, so I'm one of the deputies. I am the deputy academic, but I prefer just being the teacher. So I teach English and history, specifically in the higher levels.
Okay.
So that would be grade 10s, 10, 11, and 12. So
That reminds me, at PCC, what did you major in?
I was a history major.
So you actually are teaching what you majored in.
Teaching, yes.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. Do you have a preference for either subject? Like, do you?
I've actually learned to love English. I used to hate it, just because there's so many, like all the grammar and stuff like that, all the reading. But I mean, history is the same thing.
True.
There's a lot of reading. You have to memorize a lot of things. But as I've taught, it's just I'm leaning more towards I love English. I love teaching it. I love the structure within it, and I feel like, so I mean, that's life, I guess. You tend to. Yeah, there's plenty of things that I'm learning as I'm teaching in English that I want to impart to the kids, which I feel like, I'm learning to love more and more. Every single year I'm teaching the lesson. But I think it's equal footing right now.
Yeah. You like both subjects right now?
I love both subjects, yeah.
I was curious because I didn't realize your parents were teachers as well, since close to almost like the beginning in the inception of the school for Tokaikolo Church. Were they the ones that inspired you to follow in their footsteps, or why have you chosen teaching?
Okay. No, to be quite honest, they weren't the ones. The one who inspired me to be a teacher was one of our late principals, because I loved history. I took history in Australia, and then I came here, went to CUP, and my history teacher, her name was Malō.
Oh, wow.
Loved the way she taught, just very clear, and also from the Abeka Christian perspective, just made me love it even more. And from that moment, kind of inspired me.
Wow,
this would be something interesting. I would love to do this, and eventually, here I am.
Wow, 14 years later.
My parents, yes, definitely the inspiration in a sense. Just looking at them and the time that they've poured into the education system and even into the church, that's very inspiring to me. But I guess to be the teacher, specifically in history, the beginning of it was from the late principal.
Wow.
But,
I remember her actually.
Yes.
She used to be in Hepeloni in California before coming. Yeah. Wow. That's neat to hear that name again. It's definitely a throwback. My next question is, can you share the history behind Tokaikolo's education system? When it started, who started it, and what's the mission?
Tokaikolo Christian education, I think that kind of like came later, but it started with Lavingamali Christian College, from my knowledge, back in the early 80s, I think it's 1980, with Sentuli Koloi. That's a name that's very popular with a lot of the Tokaikolo people. They know he's the founder of the church.
Yep.
And from there, I guess he was looking for a specific type of education that would be Bible-based, Christ-based, focused on biblical, focused on, a biblical understanding of learning whatever lesson it was.
Yeah.
And from there, from what I heard, I haven't read this anywhere, but I've heard this talked about where they went over to the United States and eventually, went to these universities, found themselves in Pensacola, and eventually came into Abeka. But the vision and mission that we're trying to, teach to our students is, one, first and foremost, is they come to know Christ.
Amen.
So that's always been the main focus of teaching, is for the kids to know Christ. Secondly is so they can develop godly character. And then third is education, it's academics.
Yeah.
But we try to instill all the truths of the Bible to our kids, so that hopefully one day, we know that it's not going to be like so it's not going to, it's not useless. It's not going to be void. Teaching these kids specifically from the Christian perspective. I know it's difficult here in Tonga because it's kind of like a new concept in a way.
True. Yeah.
I know my dad, especially with my dad.
Yeah.
Dad, he was in an education system. It was a church school. But the things that he was learning there, he said, was still very secular. It was still very, he learned about evolution. He didn't learn about creation.
Wow.
So when he was introduced to the Abeka, he was excited. He loved it. He was a maths teacher, science teacher, and he just continued to love it as he continued to learn about it. And now he's a Bible teacher, so he's just continually advocating for the Abeka. So.
Were you raised with Abeka growing through Loving Christian
the
College?
Christian elementary school?
Yeah.
I really don't remember, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I remember like specific things, but it's not really the academics.
Yeah.
So
when you went to PCC in Pensacola, was that your first time, you would say, maybe?
No, it was actually at LCU, or Loving Mali Christian University. Remember in 2004 when they first started? It started with the Abeka curriculum.
I see.
So the teachers were teaching Abeka.
Then,
and that's why we kind of went over to the United States. It was a good transition. We already did history, education, English, even biology. So all of that was already taught here. So it's I think it was like an AA.
Wow.
They were offering the AA here, so it's the first 2 years.
I see, like an associate's degree.
Yeah. So when we came over, it was cross-credited.
Wow, that's neat. So you transferred credits.
I think it was the first year they kind of just trialed us, and then the second year they accepted all our credits.
Oh, that's wonderful. I didn't even know that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I went from freshman to a senior.
Super senior.
The rest of my time.
At least the credits transferred. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, I went through the public school system from K4 all the way through 12th grade. So my first exposure to Abeka curriculum was not until my freshman year at Pensacola Christian College. So I don't know for you, for me, it was just all brand new information, and I just soaked it in like a sponge. I loved it because it contradicts everything that I was taught going through the public school system, which is evolution only, and it's biased in that aspect too. And everything we learn is opposite of what we learn through creation science.
Yeah, but I mean, with my experience, my education in Australia, I was in the secular education, and then my last 2 years I went to a Christian school. But even that Christian school didn't really teach a Christian syllabus. It was still, things that were taught in other public schools as well. So the history that was taught at the Christian school that I was at, it didn't have that Christian perspective from it. So when I was introduced to it, just like you, I loved it here in Tonga. And then when I went over to Pensacola, it was like, give me more.
Yeah, I couldn't get enough.
I just wanted to take class after class after class.
Definitely.
So.
A part of the requirements for Pensacola Christian College is the same. It's very similar to what Lavenga's mission is. Really, it's your salvation first. And not just that, but also understanding to defend your faith. Why do you believe in what you believe? Instead of just going through the motion and going to church, you can actually back it up with the Bible. And then you add to that science and history and all these wonderful things, but from a biblical worldview. So that's wonderful, Henny. Why is Christian education important today?
Yes, that's a very important question, because I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what Christian education is. Here in Tonga, we have plenty of church schools, and it's wonderful to know that I would say probably the majority of schools here in Tonga is a church-affiliated school. But I think Lavenga Mali it's different in the sense that we want to emphasize the biblical perspective of every lesson. So it's not, okay, we're going to learn science, but we're going to learn science in a, secular or a worldly kind of perspective where we're learning about evolution and stuff. Because of course, like you said, it's going to contradict. It's going to go opposite with what we believe and have been taught in the church and in our faith. So I think it's very, very important. It's vital that we have a clear understanding, whether it be mathematics, history, English, whatever subject it is very important to make sure that we have a right mindset and that perspective from a biblical point of view. So because it's going to influence our lives, you know, we're going to go out there into the world, and we're going to be bombarded. You know, we're going to be knocked from every different side about, you know, our faith. So it's very, very important that we're grounded well on our faith in the Bible. But not only that, when we are educated, you know, this is our minds that we're fighting over, and our minds are so important.
That's right.
So, you know, whether it's whatever lesson it is, I do believe, and that's why I loved the ABECA.
Yeah.
I never knew that you could learn, you know, a Christian perspective in mathematics. I mean, you know, it's a new concept for a lot of people here in Tonga. They're like, you know, what's so different about loving God? I mean, what's, you know, this mathematics from, you know, the same maths here, same maths there, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Like the same with history. It's not. Like you have a different mindset when you come and learn it from that biblical perspective. And I've loved it ever since.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why I'm still where I am today.
You make such a good point, because think about how many years you're in school as a student total. That's a lot of it. So it really does. It is foundational in how you, it molds you into people, what you become. Going to PCC forever changed how I view everything around me. How I view God, why I believe God, creation, everything, history. It's true, Henry. That's so true. I can see
mine as well.
So,
same thing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. My next question: what are some of the main challenges that you currently face in Tonga as a Christian educator?
Challenge. I guess there's plenty. There's always plenty of challenges for any Christian educator.
Yep.
Here in Tonga, I love the fact that we can still discipline our kids, you know, through the rod. I think
I see.
It's, I guess the culture. I think the culture tends to influence a lot of our educational systems. Whenever something happens, let's say, for example, our church and school, we go hand in hand here in Tonga. So whenever there is something that is going on within the church, of course, the school will fall in line with that as well. Whenever there is something, whether, I guess, funerals, things that tend to affect people within, I guess, the system, then the whole school tends to go along with that. So I guess it's more the culture here in Tonga. It's very different from abroad.
True.
Our culture here will influence the education system here. Whereas, of course, there's a culture overseas, but, you know, school is, you know, they have that already scheduled in, all the days, the holidays. Nothing is going to, you know, not going to have or change what they've scheduled for the year. Here in Tonga, you know, we will have something happen, whether it's, you know, something with maybe a coronation or something like that. Of course, all the schools is going to, pens down, we're going to do something for that. And it depends, I guess, on what school it is, but with the school system that I'm in, Vaine Church, I would say probably one of the biggest challenges is the culture. You tend to get used to it eventually. And I guess
I had a question. The students that go to La Venga Maria Christian College, are they members of the church as well, or is it just open enrollment to whoever?
It's open enrollment.
Okay.
So we have students who are coming in from different, you know, denominational backgrounds. They're not all tokaikolo.
What about staff and faculty?
Majority staff would be tokaikolo, but, you know, we're still open to other teachers who are from other churches as well. It's open for those who are not tokaikolo as well.
Okay. Is that a challenge to you guys at all? Do you feel like that's a factor, or no? Not really.
Of course, yes, because, you know, when kids come in who haven't been, but then at the same time, there are also the students who have been raised within the church that are still very problematic. But
sometimes worse.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's the generation today is much different, I guess, from back in the days. And I think every teacher will admit the fact that it's so difficult nowadays to teach the generation who's very technological. They just focus so much on technology, and it's kind of like warped their brains in a sense, that they're just in this trance when they come and sit in classroom. They're not really there. Their brains are elsewhere. And like I know with a lot of the boys, they're really into their games. Social media with a lot of the girls, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and it really is noticeable when they come to class. They just have this dazed look about them when they're sitting in class, and it's really hard to teach them.
Do you feel like that got worse after 2020 COVID year, or?
I think so, because they were so used to it when they're at home. I mean, what else are you going to entertain your kids with? But okay, here you go on your phone, go on this iPad or whatever. And I think it did kind of like increase or make it become more rapidly, I guess with the kids now, it's just the norm now. Back then it wasn't like that. I feel like we still had a lot of the attention of the kids. You have your undisciplined kids here and there, but they weren't that bad. I don't think they were that bad. So I mean, now I think it's technology that's also influenced, and a lot of challenges with a broken home family, the kids who come from broken homes. That's also a challenge, trying to, I guess, cater and just trying to understand the kids and their background and where they're at and why they are the way that they are. You really have to kind of have a little time to focus on the kids. And
it goes beyond just the classroom, it sounds like.
And I think every teacher has to adjust to those situations, I guess.
Do you ever find yourself where it's emotionally overwhelming?
Oh, all the time.
Nearly every week. Do you ever get to a point where you're almost kind of insensitive to a point because you can't save the world?
That's why I need my constant time in the Word, because that's the point of being a Christian educator. You need to draw strength from somewhere, and if you have all of these problems that's going around you, have all of this pressure that's going, you feel overwhelmed. I mean, that's life.
That's right.
And if you don't have some kind of foundational grounding, oh gosh. I think I'd lose my mind. But
your own source pouring into you.
And just know why you're doing what you're doing. I know that I'm a teacher for a reason. I am first a Christian educator, and then just trying to help the kids to understand the importance of knowing God. And then beyond that is all the knowledge that I'm trying to teach them, whether it be English or history. And of course try to mold the behaviors and stuff like that here and there with discipline. But
I commend all educators, but especially Christian educators too, because it's not the norm. But you also are spending more time with these young minds, more than they are anywhere else, more than they were at home, more than they are anywhere, even at church. They're more in the classroom with the teacher. So for me, the teacher made the difference in my subjects. Where if they were able to help unlock my mind and I was able to grasp a concept, that made all the difference. So I commend all Christian educators hanging in what you guys too.
You too.
Commendable, for sure. It's not easy. All right, my next question for you is, what are some of the misconceptions about Tokaikolo Church and its school?
The misconceptions. I think people tend to think that once they come into the Tokaikolo education system, everything's going to be, perfect. Where all the kids are going to be, well-behaved kids. But it's the same everywhere.
It's true.
I think the challenges with us is the same as any other school. But for us, as a Christian school, I guess our heart is just so invested, I guess, because we know that it's not just the minds that we're educating, it's also reaching the hearts and trying to making sure that they know where they're headed for eternity, and then hopefully they have something that's going to keep them grounded, not just educationally, academically, in their minds, know all these things so they can pursue a career.
Yeah.
But there are things that's going to ground them in those careers, in those families that they're going to build one day.
That's right.
And it goes back to the foundation of the Bible.
That's true.
That's what's going to keep them. So I think
that's wonderful. Okay. What is your advice for current students regarding higher Christian education?
I used to think that it's good to continue. It's good to continue education, but now not so much. Especially with the kind of education system that we're in right now. I do not believe that you should be continuing your education in secular education.
Why is
I really
that?
don't believe that, because now we're moving more towards just from I do a lot of listening to podcasts. I read. And just a lot of the education systems now and the curriculum that they're teaching in there, it's just very ungodly in a sense. Yeah. And why would you put your kids in an ungodly school that will indoctrinate them? I mean, we as educators, and I'm sure as parents as well, we would like to protect the minds and the hearts of our kids. Some people, they say, okay, let them, go and
figure it out on their own.
And it's fine. Okay, sure, but from my experience as just growing up, I wish I had gone to a Christian school and had that foundation established while I was still young.
Yeah, understood.
At the same time, I know that God brought me through certain places and through a particular education system so that I can see and compare. I know, okay, this is where I was at. I was at a secular education, and this is how they tended to think and what I was taught. And then this is the Christian education and the kind of perspective and point of view that they had. And comparing the two, I feel like this is very, very important. I'm leaning more towards now to the trade schools. I think that's very important. Yeah. But I do believe further education, but find yourself a good education system that it's so hard now because a lot of the education systems, I guess it depends on the kind of lesson that you're going, or the subject or course that you're going to take, or but I feel like a lot of the here in Tonga, a lot of the education system would tend to go into more social, and those social studies, they tend to indoctrinate a lot, and they put in a lot of things that are not well in line with our Christian beliefs. Whether it's transgender education or teaching the kids. It's really. It really is a problem, and I guess you really need to look into the education system that you want to continue on with, whether the program is in line with your beliefs, and if not, find yourself a good Christian education system. I mean, the money is going to cost. Pensacola Christian education, it is going to cost, but the investment is so worth
lifelong, eternal.
Yes, I am wholly indebted for my education at Pensacola Christian College.
I agree.
I would not be the person that I am today had it not been for that school.
That's right. Same with me.
So I am very thankful for that.
That's a big encouragement to a lot of the parents that are out there, and even the young parents, the new parents that we have. And even while they're still thinking of where they should put their child to school, it does make a difference. It does.
It matters, especially at the young age.
Yeah.
Elementary school is so important because they're so vulnerable and so gullible that they believe anything. Yeah. So, I mean, that's where you really need to take care of the kids. And today I'm leaning more towards, I wish I could go back to the elementary school and teach there and kind of establish that foundation with the kids. Because once they get into high school, it's so difficult to change their minds and to educate them because they're so set in their ways.
Definitely.
And
and you were mentioning, we were kind of discussing this earlier, for the parents that are out there, it matters what they're learning in school. Why? Because that's what the government requires and mandates for a lot of the schools, and it may or may not be what you even believe in, and it may even contradict with your religious beliefs or your faith-based system. And that's what we don't realize, right? It affects them, and we don't know that. I know for a lot of parents out there, like including my own, raising 5 children and in order to pay private school for all 5 was not possible at the time, but they later saw the value and sent us to Pensacola Christian College, where not all of my siblings were able to go, but majority of us did. And we are still living testimonies of we're really receiving the benefits of that sacrifice that they were able to do. So all the parents that are out there, we are encouraging and also begging and pleading that you value your children's education, and setting them up for success. It's so important. So thank you, Hengi, for that. My next question for you is, what are the differences in the education systems? You touched on that a little bit, because you've gone to school in Tonga, you've gone to school in Australia, you've also gone to school in the US. So can you just share some of your experiences as far as differences and similarities?
Yes. The secular education that I received when I was in Australia, you have a lot of different variety of things that you can learn. It's not very, I guess they often call it traditional or classic education, where you're receiving, you're learning about language, you're learning about mathematics,
social studies.
The core subjects that a child needs to know. They need to, literacy, numeracy, all of those things. It is emphasized, but I guess the methods that they use is a little different. Whereas I know the ABECA, they tend to drill that into the kids, making sure that the kids are able to read and write and count and do all those things while they're still in elementary school.
It's true.
And I was like amazed when I went to Pensacola, because my mind, I'm a little slow. Okay? I am I would say a little slow with numbers.
Oh,
and I was so surprised when I went there, and I took the easiest maths at the college, and yet I have these kids who were raised at Becca, the mental capacity for them to kind of just hit it's like,
you're right.
Seriously?
Yeah.
But I mean, that wasn't the case in my education. It was, we covered a lot of things that I feel like maybe not really useful right now. But I had a lot of options in my secular education to do whatever I want. I took home economics, I took photography, I took drama, all of these. And I guess I didn't really have a guide in a sense to kind of direct me. I wanted to be a nurse. And I wanted to be a nurse, and I took drama.
Thank God you're not a nurse.
It would have been nice to have, those advisors, and I think Christian education, they tend to do that with you, and they have those subjects that prepare you so that you're able to, I can look at this, I can do this, and photography class, of course, you can take that later on. It's not
electives, optional.
But and of course, definitely the content, definite big difference, of course. You're learning about millions and millions of years and the Big Bang Theory and all of that, and knowing, there's no God, of course. That's in the secular education. Whereas in the Christian education, goes back, Bible, God, in the beginning. And from there, that's where we start. And then, of course, we have an end and eternity. Whereas the other side, it's, you end and that's it.
Oblivion, So you
I
come from nothing, therefore you are nothing.
It's, so definitely that's, I guess, the most important thing. And
that's great. You brought up a good point, because I am also a product of public school education in America, and it's true. We learned more starting from primary, K4, K5. It's all memorization. Whereas with ABECA, I know Pensacola Christian Academy, they're teaching you all the fundamentals. So they lay the groundwork, like what you're saying. You learn and you do all the sounds, the blending sound, you're learning by phonics.
The phonics.
So you're taught really what the foundational aspects are of every aspect, whether it's mathematics or English or writing, everything. It's true, because once you learn, no one can take that away from you. There's power in knowledge, in being informed and being educated. So that's wonderful, Hengi. Thank you for sharing that. Would you recommend going to school abroad? And if you do, why? Or if not, What are your reasons?
Of course, because I went to school abroad to Pensacola. I mean, I would definitely encourage people, if they had the finances, to go abroad, but to find yourself a good school. Find yourself a school that is, I guess it depends on what you're going to go and learn. With me, it was history, and I wanted to go and learn it from that Christian perspective, and at the end of the day, that's what I got. Yeah. But it's so important because now, you know, a lot of schools, they may not say it, but it is a lot of indoctrination. There's so many things that are being taught, whether it's, you know, it doesn't matter what subject you're in or what course you're taking, there's always going to be something in there that is going to come against what it is that you believe. So it's important to look into whatever subject or course or study that you want to take, to make sure that you're well aware of, I guess, the belief system of that particular school that you want to go to. Yeah. But I encourage people to go and study abroad. Here in Tonga, I mean, there are opportunities, I guess, like we were talking about before, of online courses and stuff. Yeah. But then there are also, I guess, certain people that want to go and experience, you know, another culture, another environment, rather than just being here in Tonga. Yeah, it's a great experience to be able to be in a school with other people who are not Tongans.
That's right.
You know,
exposure.
Get yourself out of that mindset to, you know, meet other cultures. And to know that, you know, it's not just Tonga. I mean, we're all different, but you get to learn from other cultures, and that's what I enjoyed about Pensacola.
That's true.
It was very diverse in the different. I mean, I know there were plenty of Palangis.
Yes.
Plenty, of course. But there are other cultures as well that we were able to mix with. And
many,
so it was a blessing.
European and African countries and you name it. And even within the U.S., it's diverse too. Yeah, but very multicultural. I think I agree with you. It's important to be to have exposure. It's good to also know opposing views, you know, but like you said, still anchored in your own faith and knowing what you believe, you know, so that's important too. So very good, Hengi. Why have you chosen to teach at La Venga Mali in Tonga after all these years?
I think it's still the fact that they have that Christian foundation, and they are still focused on teaching, using the Abeka, teaching from a Christian perspective. I know it's a little difficult for some people to understand, as it's a very rich, syllabus. Yeah. And I know a lot of Tongan, our teachers, of course, we struggle to finish a particular book. It hasn't been finished by us, but I mean, we're trying to teach a second language to Tongan students, and it's very difficult. At the same time, I think there is a very valuable, it's the truths that they bring out that we need to focus on. I mean, we can break it down to just focus on specific things, but I think we need to really, like for my school, I think we need to continue with the Abeka and continue to encourage our teachers and those who are going to, you know, whether they want to come and teach at La Venga, to know that Christian school is not just in name only. You really need to get into what you're teaching to your kids. Yeah. And I think that's the difficult part, because some people are like, okay, why can't we just teach, you know, let's say economics or accounting, just like every other school? Well, you can, but there is another way of looking at things. And I guess that's what I was really amazed about when I came and taught, well, not taught, but learned through the Abeka, and then now teaching through the Abeka. I don't think I would still be a teacher, to be quite honest. If the Abeka wasn't running at the school that I'm at La Venga Mali, I don't think I'd be teaching. I'd be finding something else to do. Yeah. But because I still have that freedom to teach from the Abeka, whether it's my English, my history, I still have that passion and that desire to still teach at La Venga Mali Christian College. Wow. Because I feel like it's very valuable for the next generation who are going to be here in Tonga and run the country one
future
day.
Leaders.
So,
it's true.
Impart what's true to them. Yeah. Because there's so many things that's coming in now, so many doctrines, so many ideologies that's so opposite from what we believe. Yeah. That we need to like really encourage them. Yeah, they can be whatever they want to be, whatever. Yet have that grounding.
That's right. That's true.
But that's why I'm still at Lavinga and still enjoying it.
Yeah.
Up to this very day.
14 years strong. That's wonderful.
Strong.
That's an impressive career to have for that long too, Henny. Should be proud of yourself for sure. You she mentions ABECA. ABECA is a Christian curriculum, traditional Christian curriculum that was founded back in the 1980s, I believe. Actually, it was in 1980s.
Was it in PCA or?
Because PCA started, but they were not satisfied with the Christian curriculum that existed at the time. And because of God providing through special donations and private donors, they had the funds and they were able to print and write their own Christian curriculum. And what ended up happening is they had excess. So that's what birthed the idea of, well, why don't we sell it? Because there were so many Christian schools that were out there, they just didn't have the materials. Whether it was Sunday school or a school, K4 through a grade school, through 6th grade, or even secondary school is what you guys call it. We call it middle school and high school. But that's what birthed ABECA. So if you're thinking and maybe your hindrance and the obstacle is the cost, then maybe consider homeschooling. Maybe even materials. They have different packages and different payment plans. Or if you have a nearby Christian school in your local area, check out what's already out there. If you're here in Tonga, there's Lavinga Malie, where they do teach using ABECA. So there are options that are out there, but don't feel like there are no options, right? There's no way to really... There really are, especially with technology these days. They have online schooling. ABECA also has an academy online, abekaacademy.com. So feel free to check it out. And if you have any other questions, you could always send me a DM and I'll connect you with the information and the resources. So that leads me to my next question, Hengi. If there are parents that are out there, grandparents and guardians who are interested in Christian education here in Tonga, or maybe online, how can they get at that information? Where should they go? Phone number or website?
For Lavinga Malie? Oh, goodness. I'm not really sure whether we have a website, but we're a local school, so you'd have to be here in Tonga. It's a very small island. You can find it. You just ask anybody where Lavinga Malie is, and you can come on down and see us. Yeah. But maybe one day we'll have a website up.
Sure.
For anybody abroad who wants to come down to Tonga.
Is there an enrollment advisor or a contact person for admissions to Lavinga Malie?
Yes, it would be Lavinga Malie College Lavinga Malie College @gmail.com.
Okay.
So you can just email to our secretary and she'll...
That's great. In addition to Lavinga Malie Christian College, there's also the university.
Yeah.
CUP.
That's where we're at.
Which is where we're here now. This is my first time being here, which is lovely. What are some of the degrees in the fields of study that are offered here at CUP?
I know it's, of course, Bible. So this is the Bible faculty area. They also offer business.
Nice.
I do believe that they maybe started the law. But it's just kind of
like pre-law,
an
maybe?
introduction to law, maybe. Education, of course. That's
Wonderful.
also another course that they offer here. And computers, so ICT is also offered here. And they also have a tech school that's attached to the CUP.
That's great.
So I guess they also are offering secretarial work. Studies.
Okay.
So it's more
like office administration or office services
and other things, but I'm not really aware of the specifics to it.
So that's also here in Nuku'alofa as well. So that's wonderful. So you have the grade school, you have the college, and then you also have the university here in Tonga. That's wonderful.
10 minutes away.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're down to just the last two questions. I was curious to know the statistics. So how many students are currently enrolled in Lavinga Malie Christian College?
We have, I think, around 100 and something.
Wow.
100, maybe 150 or so.
Yeah.
I think we started off with about 200. And now a lot of times when the kids come in, it's always for sports.
I see.
Because at the beginning of the year, that's the culture here in Tonga. So at the beginning of the year, we have inter-school sports. And then we have the rugby, netball, all of that. And a lot of the kids are really interested in it. So they want to join the school, so they're involved.
Part of the team.
Once it's done, you have a dropout rate.
Wow.
Of kids who just don't really come back to school anymore, or they'll go to another school.
I see.
But that tends to be the norm. I think it's the norm with a lot of schools here in Tonga. We have that culture of, we emphasize, sports is very popular here in Tonga. So
I see.
a lot of the kids here, they love sports. So that's a big thing here. I think it's the first term going into the second term. It's kind of like that break where we have our inter-school sports.
I see.
And that's a major event here in Tonga. So we tend to focus a lot of that on our first term with training a lot of the kids. And we have a lot of kids who attend the school. And then later on, probably term 2, term 3, we have
the dropout
rates.
Wow.
Or the transfer rates.
I see. So that affects it heavily.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. Yeah. What about CUP? Do you know what the enrollment numbers are here?
Okay. CUP, because we're pretty. We're not really.
They're still separate.
Yeah, they're still separate. We're not connected.
Yeah. So La Venga Malia Christian College is going on 45 years.
Next year.
Wow, that's wonderful. And then CUP, do you know how old CUP is? More fairly new.
It was from 2004, so that's when I first came.
I see.
Okay. 2004 going.
20 years already.
Last year. No, it was this year. Sorry.
This is 20 years already. Wow. Wow. It doesn't seem that long ago.
2004, yes.
Okay, very neat. Down to our last question. Are you ready? She's been doing wonderful. What can we do as whether we're Tokaikolo church members, VMK, viewers, people that are listening and watching? What do you think we can do to support Tokaikolo's mission in Christian education?
Well, first and foremost, pray. I think it's very important. You guys we need your prayers for our school, because I'm not really sure whether. I know we have our church, we have that prayer chain that's going out.
Yes.
And I know the school is part of that. So continue doing that. Secondly, I think our school specifically, but I know other schools as well within our system, we need teachers. Amen. We need people who are willing to come and work here for the kids, to encourage the kids, to teach them in whatever area. I know my area in history and English teachers are needed at Malia Christian College. And just all the different areas, if you're willing to come and work at the school, we need workers. And then, of course, lastly, we need funds.
Amen.
We need funds no institution is going to run without the funds. And I know the church is doing their part. But you can reach out to a particular teacher and just give them an encouragement or something. Maybe it's an ex-teacher. You can send a little message or something. But I do believe a lot of our teachers need that encouragement. But definitely your prayers and
Amen.
Funds.
Yes, you're
of course. But I think those are the things that's
true.
Really needed by any school.
Yeah, that's right.
But specifically our Christian school.
Yeah, that's right.
Need that.
Good to know. Yeah, because I know there's even for me, we learned a lot about doing misinale for the first time. That was big this year. But it's good to know that those of you who are a part of the misinale too, you get to see and you've got to hear what that goes towards. Some of those proceeds and those funds go to running the school. There's La Venga Malia Christian College. You have the grade school. Do you guys have K4 and K5?
Yes, we do.
All the way up
through.
Do you guys we call it high school. What do you guys call it?
It's still high school here,
okay.
But then we also call it college as well.
I see. Which is separate from university.
It's not university.
I see.
So I think it's more like a Southern Hemisphere thing where we call our colleges high school.
Okay.
And university is just university.
I see. So. In US, it's synonymous, college and university. The only difference is if the institution is heavy on what they offer for undergraduate program, it's college.
Right.
But if they offer more heavy for graduate school and doctoral, masters and doctoral, then it's a university. So that's the differentiation in the United States. But see, in Tonga, it's different. college is full up through high school, and then university is after high school. So that's really neat. I'm learning a lot. Just the differences. Australia and New Zealand is probably the same as Tonga too. Yeah. So I'm curious, like UK and so on and so forth.
Yeah, maybe we're kind of like going along that as well.
Yeah.
Because I mean, we're like a branched out within the Commonwealth.
That's probably it. Yeah. Like Australia. That's true. Yeah. Very neat. But it's true, you guys can't run any of this without fund. It still takes funding. It still takes money to operate a school. It's interesting because I feel like it's a hybrid of where it's ministry on one side, but then on the flip side, it's also a business.
I think it goes,
hand in hand.
I mean, we call it a ministry, but at the same time, there is that business
aspect of it. Yeah. It's true. Because you still need to pay your teachers, right? They still have a bills and expenses, living expenses as well. There's a lot involved here too. But I wholeheartedly agree, because I also work in Christian education as well back in the United States. And it's a lot of, you're doing work in the background. It's things that people will never know. You know, so you may feel like it's underappreciated, definitely underpaid. But we were all speaking earlier, you know, and we all agreed it's because it's a calling. You know, and we do believe that we are called, you know, to help lead and guide and prepare future leaders for our country in so many different professions wherever God may lead them. So like Henny said, please pray. And also if you're willing to come and help, even teach, it could be even sports, right?
Yes.
She's hearing that it's such a popular
we have
thing.
a sports academy that, of course, you know, when we say certain things, it's not fully ready, but I mean, it is the vision is there, and we have started. I think it's with Sekelitali. He's here training some of the kids for next year. Wow. And then we also have the academy for the band, or the music academy.
Okay,
So
your husband also heads up the band.
That. So the vision is there, but we're working to hopefully better it for, you know.
We need workers, right? We need help.
We need workers.
That's right.
Definitely.
And if not that, if you can't, you know, you can pray. And if you can't volunteer, you can pray. If you can't come out and help with teaching or working, then you can also donate. You can donate towards the church, maybe your own Coca-Cola church, and their misinale every year that goes towards that as well. So at least you know. Do you know, do we still have Ofaki Tonga, the newspaper for the church?
Not necessarily the printout, but we do have the one that's online where they post the mama anga and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's still going.
Okay.
Not necessarily all the you know, the articles and stuff like that, but I think it's still going on, just on
digital.
Facebook.
Yeah, now it's all digital. Everything's digital nowadays. And less expenses. That's true. That takes money to do all that as well, especially. Well, Hengy, it's been wonderful.
Thank you very much, Nani.
Yeah, enjoyed having you. Thank you for being a part of Vaine Monia's Kitchen Podcast.
Sorry if you know, I didn't really get to the things that you wanted to cover, but
it was lovely. You covered so many things, and even helping me understand what Christian education is like in Tonga. But no matter where, I think the mission is still the same.
Yes,
you know,
that's true.
It really is. No matter what country you're in or what you're teaching, but if it's Christian education, it's Christ first, Christ based. That's the emphasis, is tali sisu. And then not that, just mo'i aki, but you've got to understand and learn how to do that, right? You know, your individual work that you have with God as well. And then living it out and helping, like what you've been doing for 14 years and going strong. So thank you, Hengy.
Thank you.
If you don't hear it often, but it is, what you're doing is important. What you do matters. And there's a value in that. It really is. You told me you've taught over 1,400 or something estimated, or even that number, over 1,000 is a lot of children that you've impacted. So
I'm just guessing. I'm having a guess from the past 14 years.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe.
It's got
around
to be.
That time.
But imagine all the lives that you've influenced, Tengi, and not for anything, it's just for Christ. I think that matters for sure. There's an internal impact for sure, eternal. So anyway, I hope you guys were encouraged and definitely learned a lot, learning a lot about Christian education here in Tonga from Hengy here. Do they call you Mrs. Veni?
Trying to emphasize
Mrs. Veni, that's right, Mrs. Veni. So thank you.
Thank you, Nani.
We hope you guys join us for our next episode number 7. We have a special episode for Thanksgiving coming up. So until next time, Momea.